Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining in today to the preparatory regional meeting for the region of Europe and North America in preparation of the 6th International Conference on Learning Cities, which, as you are probably well aware, will take place from the 3rd to the 5th of December in the industrial city, Jubail Industrial City in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And I will be your moderator today. My name is Edith Hammer from the UNESCO Global Network of Learning Cities. And before we start, maybe just some technical notes. It would be really nice if you have a chance and if your internet connection allows to turn on your camera so that we can see who is here and have a more personal interactions today. Also, we would kindly ask you during the meeting, if you're not speaking, to mute your microphone to enhance good audio. And then I would like to inform everyone that we will have interpretation, English, French today throughout the webinar or throughout the meeting. We will have breakout sessions in the second part of the meeting, and I will explain then how that works with the interpretation for those who need it. If you are not familiar, you can find the interpretation button at the bottom of your Zoom menu. It's a kind of globe, and you can select either English or French. So we have a quite ambitious agenda today. After the brief introduction by Raul Valdez-Cotera, we will move into several presentations on local, national, and regional networking and partnerships among learning cities. We will then have a set of breakout sessions on particular themes of the learning cities, and then we will report back on main discussion points that came up in the breakout sessions, and then have some more information leading towards the 6th ICLC. So with that, I'm very pleased to hand over the floor to Raul. I think most of you know him. He's the Chief Program Coordinator here at UIL and also the Mr. Learning Cities. I think I can introduce you like that. So Raul, please, the floor is yours for an introduction and welcome to the meeting.
Thank you very much, Edith, and welcome everybody. Good afternoon to all of you. Really nice to see you, to have you here. It's really an honor to address you today on behalf of UIL and the UNESCO Global Network of Learning Cities. I'm truly excited to be part of this regional preparatory meeting, and as we come together to reflect, to exchange and strategize on how European learning cities can foster education for sustainable development, ESG, and climate action. First, I would like to express my gratitude to the cities that make this meeting happen. Special thanks to the cities in Ireland, the network in Cork, Limerick, but also many thanks to the cities in France, Clermont-Ferrand, also many thanks to Évry, Coron, and also to Hamburg, the city where UIL is based. And this gathering is particularly timely as we're preparing ourselves for the 6th International Conference on Learning Cities, under the theme of Learning Cities at the Forefront of Climate Action, which will take place, as my colleague Edith mentioned, in the Learning City of Jubail Industrial City from 3rd to 5th December. And the conference will provide a valuable platform for learning cities worldwide to engage in a meaningful dialogue, reaffirm their commitment to lifelong learning as a powerful tool to address the pressing environmental and societal challenges we're facing today. In recent years, we have seen a remarkable increase in the number of cities from the European region joining the network. Today we're proud to have 121 learning cities from 32 countries coming from Europe. This is quite a lot. It's the region that has more representation in the network, and it's the region that has more countries. Second is Asia and the Pacific with 107 cities, but just from 12 countries. So it's really a good representation in terms of countries. So today we should have at least 121 participants representing each of the cities, and probably we'll have it later on. But really the role of these cities in promoting sustainable development and climate action is more crucial than ever. Cities serve as hubs for innovation, culture, learning, and they are key to advancing education for sustainable development. And by equipping our cities, particularly the youth, with the knowledge, skills, and values to address climate change, we're laying the foundation for a resilient, inclusive, and sustainable future in line with the SDG 11. We are all aware that the challenges posed by languages and by specific challenges are making cities to articulate themselves and cooperate in different ways. We are witnessing a particular strategy of sub-regional or national learning city networks that in a way they are responding in a very dynamic way to the local needs. So we have the general networks, but we can see how at the country level, cities are organizing themselves in order to move on specific direction and probably with a faster dynamic. Or at sub-regional level, that's also happening. And we will hear a little more on these sub-networks later on today. This preparatory meeting offers also a valuable opportunity to reflect on the advancement made, share best practices and innovative ideas, and also to explore new ways to promote education for sustainable development, climate action, and other important topics. Additionally, it will provide a collaborative space to discuss and identify actionable cooperation for the cities in Europe for the future. As we look ahead to the International Conference on Learning Cities in Saudi Arabia, let us remember that lifelong learning is our greatest ally to face and overcome the climate change. Through skills developed and knowledge, we can inspire individuals and communities to take meaningful action, adopt sustainable policies, and build resilient cities for future generations. I really look forward to the rich discussion today and the valuable insights you will share. Which will be key to fit the discussion, not just for the European cities today, but also to the international conference in December. Thank you very much. Back to you, Edith.
Thank you, Raul. So I think this already provided a really good floor for the presentations to follow. And we will now hear from experiences from a German city, from the city of Hamburg, on local collaboration structures, also linking to international networks. Then we will hear about the Irish network of learning cities and how they coordinate their work. And after that, also on a national level, we will hear from the French Learning Cities Network, and then move to one level higher, so to say, to an experience on how to coordinate at the regional level. So to start with, I'm very pleased to introduce to you our speaker, Jürgen Forkel-Schubert. He's a senior consultant for the Learning City project in Hamburg, and he has prepared a presentation on local collaboration structures in a learning city. Jürgen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Edith, and welcome to everybody. My name is Jürgen Forkel-Schubert, and I'm also the co-chair of the ESD working group of the Learning Cities. I'm very happy to be with you, and you might be surprised in an international meeting for networking on a regional or international scale to hear something about the local collaboration. And I would start the screen and try to show it why it is so important. Oop. Can you see that now?
Yes, if you have a chance to go to presentation mode, then we could see it a bit larger, but if not, we can also manage like that.
I'm sorry. Is it better?
I think it's okay. I think it's okay, Jürgen.
Okay, so if you think at a local scale, it's everything that happens in a city. That means you all are learning cities, and for sure you will have a network, an educational network. And our educational network is shown on the left-hand side. On the top, there's a circle, a green circle, and we have, for sure, we have a steering committee and administration committee, and we have forums of different educational partners. We have a forum of primary schools, of preschool, we have forum of high school and universities and so on. It might look different in all the cities, but the more important is these forums have also their own networks. So if you look at them, for example, you will find there's this ASP school network around, and you might find that the World ASP School Network is very interesting for your work. You might be able to use it. Or if you look at the universities, there might be a university chair that brings you into other dimensions of your work. And if you look at the formal education, that means the formal education is very much connected to the city, but there is also a non-formal education. For example, there's a UNESCO World Heritage Site around, or a geopark, or maybe there's a regional center of expertise. So through these UNESCO activities close to your city, or maybe inside your city, you can reach other networks, global networks that might be able to transport your ideas or bring in new ideas from outside into your network. That's why I think it is so important to have connections to these UNESCO activities, because the UNESCO emblem is well known, and many people do not know these specific UNESCO activities. So if you look in your city at these UNESCO activities, you will find out that is a UNESCO Learning Cities local family. And with all these activities that might look different in all your cities, you will find out you have a lot of friends, and you will find connections to this local and regional and international issue that you want to transport. And that's what I want to tell you. So please be aware that it's not only the learning cities issue, but there are a lot of thematic issues that you are connected with through these UNESCO activities. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jürgen, for giving an insight into how the city of Hamburg is not only a member of the UNESCO Global Network of Learning Cities, but it also has a lot of different affiliations related to UNESCO's work and UN work, such as the RCEs. So I think that's a good example of the different strands of connections that can exist, and that would also help us and feed into the discussions that we can have. Thank you so much again. I would now like to hand over the floor to Yvonne Lane. Yvonne is the lifelong learning facilitator from the Learning City of Limerick in Ireland. And she also has prepared a presentation on the Irish Network of Learning Cities, on how they are coordinating their joint efforts in Ireland. So please, Yvonne, the floor is yours. We're looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Edith. I'll just share my screen there, and you might just, I'm going to switch to one moment there. 1 second about switching to presentation mode.
Yvonne, do you need any support on our side? I think now you have the right, it's this icon that looks a bit like a screen. Otherwise, you can also leave it like that. I think it's quite easy.
Yeah, no, I changed it to presentation mode when we did our tech check, but I just can't see the...
It's that little icon that is right next to the audio, to the zoom in and out, yeah, and left to that, this little screen icon.
Yeah, just give me 1 moment. Sorry there now.
Next to the minus sign, it's down. You just, you next to the minus sign, there's a small like projector screen. Click on it. Down the slide. Yes. Okay. So click yes
Yeah,
on this
right here.
Sorry for the delay, folks. And it worked perfect in our tech check. Okay, off we go. So we're going to learn about the Irish Network of Learning Cities. And I suppose I'm just going to introduce you to who we are, what cities in the island of Ireland are members of the network, and we're all members of the UNESCO Global Network of Learning Cities. But I'll go into that some more, and you see we have our nice logo with the UNESCO emblem on it, but just around the members. So we have 6 cities, and they are, of course, Cork, who originally pulled us all together in late 2018, but I'll say a little bit more about that shortly. We have Derry City and Strabane region, Dublin Learning City, Belfast Learning City, ourselves in Learning Limerick, where I'm from. And more recently, I mentioned that Cork originally convened 5 cities together, beginning in late 2018, a while back now. But we were delighted to start working with Waterford Learning City, our new partner last year in 2023. And of course, Waterford was the 6th city from the island of Ireland to formally be welcomed and accepted into the UNESCO Global Network, the wider network indeed, earlier this year. So very importantly, we have a formal agreement called a Memorandum of Understanding, which the 5 cities originally would have signed after we had been brought together in 2019, indeed. And we re-signed that agreement visiting Belfast. And you see there the 5 mayors holding the signs in Belfast City Hall in May 2022, reaffirming our commitment to working together. And we'll have to sign a new one now because we have now Waterford joining us as the 6th city. So what does the MOU actually mean? I suppose within the MOU is stated the mission and guiding documents and of the UNESCO Global Network, the key features, the original Beijing Declaration of Learning Cities, adopting, I suppose, the guidelines for building learning cities. And we also had that Cork call to action when Cork hosted the conference in 2017 for UNESCO. So we adopt those guidelines and we commit to working together. But I'll say more about how that operates in practice and how we work together indeed and support each other. So what do we do to communicate with each other? We hold quarterly meetings. They might be online, but I suppose they might, very importantly, be visiting each other's cities as well with our chairs and the coordinators. We also, and this is very important, I suppose, kind of regular support, peer-to-peer support with each other, bi-weekly coordinators calls online. And that could be helping each other with challenges, brainstorming, sharing best practice, etc. Now, I suppose the online calls are great, but we do find that visiting each other's cities, we went to Limerick in July, we plan to go to Dublin shortly, I suppose make for more longer, enriching brainstorming and support sessions. We share about how we organise our annual lifelong learning festivals, and we sometimes dovetail those dates so that they work with each other to be able to visit each other's festivals, etc. Now, Our activities that we've organised together, we are delighted to have been involved in a shared island programme, which I'll talk about in another slide shortly. But we have just come from that second one there of our joint activities, a lovely Irish Learning Cities Day, which falls on the last Thursday in September, the last number of years. And we have visited Cork this September to celebrate the day together. But we also importantly committed to videoing each one of our 6 mayors and nicely editing that and putting the message of our 6 mayors and out as a short sound bite on our website, social media to celebrate the day and our important mayors' commitment to the Irish and global network of learning cities. So that was our joint message, and we did one for the UNESCO 70th anniversary as well. There's a mention of the Global Learning Festival that Wyndham and Melton learning cities coordinated there, particularly during the pandemic years that the Irish network collaborated with and had an input in also. So I mentioned that we support each other's festivals and flagship events. That might entail going and visiting as a presenter, as a guest speaker at each other's cities or sitting on a panel discussion and really supporting each other, visiting each other's events. We visited the Cork Celebrates Lifelong Learning Awards there for Irish Learning Cities Day, for example. The Shared Island programme, government-funded programme in Ireland about cooperating north and south and having a lovely series of learning exchanges. So we visited each other's cities for a series of 3 days, sharing best practice, and a lot of good outcomes have come from those visits. You see there in the Mayor and City Hall in Cork as the Shared Island programme kicked off in 2022, and we would hope to sustain that going forward. But I'll talk about how the sharing has, I suppose, given real outcomes in a moment. Now, I suppose just more recently from the earlier festival this year in Cork in April, Cork were involved in inviting Katja over from UIL to visit Ireland, and arising from that visit that Cork coordinated, Katja actually followed on with an Ireland Roadshow and followed on with a visit to Belfast Learning City. So you see there Katja meeting the Lord Mayor and being honoured to hold the Belfast Learning City Award, which was wonderful. And just one more photo of Katja from UIL visiting Ireland that April, that importantly there, the Dublin Learning Festival was also going on, as was the Limerick one that particular week, and recorded a podcast with the Dublin folks. I know that Abby from Dublin is on the call today, and so was Patricia from Belfast. And they recorded a podcast, The Power of Learning Cities, a conversation with UIL. So that was, for us, one of the goals that we had identified back in Derry last October, of facilitating a visit from UNESCO to visit as many of the Irish network of learning cities as possible. And we were really honoured to welcome them. And I suppose just on the future plans, I might touch on kind of the outcomes and the good things that come from our shared collaboration, sharing our challenges, honestly, warts and all, and helping each other overcome those by giving advice, support, best practice, etc. But what are our future plans? And we've held a number of facilitated sessions in Derry and Cork more recently, where we identify what are our goals for the future of working together and supporting each other. So we wish to, you see the first bullet point there, we wish to continue to share learning and best practice, supporting each other. And like I say, the online calls are fantastic and that regular manner of them, but we do like to hold longer meetings in person as well, which I suppose they're very rich experiences and that. And we wish to sustain either the Shared Island, the national funding here, programme of learning, that North-South cooperation in the island of Ireland, to enable us to continue to meet and work on collaborative projects together. But I suppose that would also involve maybe lobbying for further funding, be that internationally or globally, with UNESCO, for example, in that support for learning cities, including the Irish network of learning cities. Going forward, we would like to plan the 6 cities, be it an annual or it might be biannual, or like the UNESCO conference being every 3 years now, an Irish network of learning cities conference here in the island of Ireland. Now I want to kind of expand on the next point, the collaborative intercity initiatives, because this is something that is really gathered momentum and success in recent years, and particularly out of the shared island, longer visits when we've gone to each other's cities for 2 or 3 days. There's examples there that have come up, like the Learning Neighbourhoods initiative, for example, that was born in Cork. And through collaboration, that initiative is now up and running in both, starting in Belfast Learning City, and there's Learning Neighbourhoods in Dublin Learning City. And we would hold workshops and hopefully twinning learning neighbourhoods in each other's cities, for example. There's another initiative in Limerick called the Learning Ambassadors Programme that has interest from Derry, and also has a model of it called the Learning Champions in Dublin Learning City, for example. So it's about that modelling of best practice and maybe supporting and twinning with each other. And we would like to see more of that happening regularly. Now, the online platforms and presence, that last point there, I suppose that's about having a voice, having an identity, website, social media, etc. But it's also about the importance of that platform, like what I said about sharing best practice and that twinning, sharing documentation, resources, etc., even amongst ourselves, as well as the kind of the public interface of that as well. So there'd be some of our future plans to work with industry partners, would be another wish and goal of the Irish Network, to work more closely. Delighted to see enterprise innovation on the themes for the later workshops, etc. I suppose they're just some of the key points that I wanted to touch on today on where the Irish Network of Learning Cities is at since being brought together in 2018. And a particular shout out to my warm colleague Dennis Barish, who was due to give the Irish Network presentation today, but I stepped in for him just over the last few days, and I hope I did the Irish Network proud this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yvonne, for this great insight into the wealth of activities that Ireland is doing jointly, and how you coordinate the work of the learning cities in Ireland. We got a little bit derailed of the time, but also I found it a very valuable and comprehensive presentation, so I didn't want to interrupt you. So we will now move on into the insights of the French Learning Cities Network. And we have Alexandra and Philippe with us. Alexandra Lyon from the Learning City of Évry-Courcouronnes, and Philippe Bouelet from the Learning City of Clermont-Ferrand. They will give a joint presentation in French language. So please, if you want to follow the presentation in English, make sure that you are in the English channel. And without further ado, I will share the slides for you, and I will give the floor, I think, to Alexandra first. Is that right?
Bonjour à tous. Donc effectivement,
Hello.
Alexandra Lyon, je suis la
Hello, everybody. I am project director for the city of Évry-Courcouronnes in France. With Philippe from Clermont-Ferrand, we would like to tell you a bit about the French network that we have built, which was born in several stages, thanks to the human factor, which is very strong and connects the representatives of French cities together in quite a durable manner. Clermont-Ferrand was the first city to join the international network. It was a project by Philippe Bouelet at the time, who was head of mission, who was a deputy mayor of Clermont-Ferrand at the time, and he worked to deploy the network and integrate this first French city, Clermont-Ferrand, which has always played a role as a facilitator and support, benevolent support also to us when we were accepted into the network. This was our first steps and the first projects within the network. So 4 cities originally, Mantes-la-Jolie, Clermont-Ferrand. We joined in 2019, and then Montpellier, and we stayed for several years, and we also visited each other's cities, because that's quite simple in the geography of France, to visit each other's cities. It was important to me to know each other, to know the geography, the projects and partners of these French cities, to foster links and trustworthy links. Also in the same spirit of trust and knowledge, interpersonal trust, that we then encourage the candidacy of the towns of Brest-Nanterre and Sarcelles, and then last year the city of Lille, which has joined the network. The French network, it's recent. The formalization of this French network is only just over a year old. It's young and modest, but based on the human scale, which allows for these links of trust and us to move forward together, and also allows for the emergence of common projects. Up until now, the network has worked in a pretty informal manner. We meet up online once a month at the beginning of each month for 2 hours. That way we can share products of projects of each other's cities, which allows us to gain inspiration from one another, but also reiterate our links and common projects. We also visit each other's cities on site regularly, as often as possible. This week, for example, with the deputy mayor, we are going to Lille, talk about the future of education, and also in November, we are going to Montpellier for a day dedicated to children's rights. The first time, the 4 cities at the time, there were 4 of us, we met together. That was during the first Festival of Lifelong Learning in Ivry-Courcouronnes, and then with the support, it was a project of UNESCO in France. We formalized the network and officially constituted the French network of learning cities. We chose naturally the city of Clermont-Ferrand as coordinating city of this young network for 3 years. And since last year, we have organized a national day. Last year was in Nanterre, this year in Lille in November. Just a reference to Belgium as well. We have 2 Belgian cities that are French speakers, which are part of our network, Liège and Charleroi, that we often have contact with too. Before handing the mic to Philippe, just to go over our common goals. There are 2 things to add. Firstly, each of our cities, our learning cities, is committed to being a member of other networks. For example, Lille, for the children of UNICEF, or the University Cities of France. Each of these cities within other networks which have common objectives with learning cities, we seek to mutualize energies to build synergies and build on the expertise developed within these networks. Another comment, also a common concern of the French learning cities, but I think it's the case in the rest of the world too. That's the question of citizen participation, how inhabitants are directly involved into projects within a learning city. In Clermont-Ferrand and Évry, we have notably set up a collaborative governance tool for learning cities called Scientific Committee or Ambassadors Committee in Évry. In Lille, Brest, and Montpellier, there are also tools and projects conducive to inhabitant participation, particularly children, the youngest inhabitant in Nanterre, and this is connected to the energy and network that was talked about in Ireland. We have a school associated with UNESCO for many years, which has become a center and source of inspiration on children's participation, just to insist on the very strong will to imagine projects involving the inhabitants of our cities and to work with them. We work with Clermont-Ferrand to build a national workshop so that we can consult this organization with ambassadors, inspiring personalities from each of these cities, Thanks for your attention. Now, over to Philippe, who's going to talk about our common project.
Merci beaucoup, Alexandra. Bonjour à tous et à toutes
very
de
much,
Clermont-Ferrand, mais de
Alexandra.
toutes nos villes, au fond.
And hello from
Lille,
Clermont-Ferrand and all our French
Montpellier,
cities, Lille,
Nanterre,
Brest,
Brest et d'autres qui viendront bientôt.
and others
Car
which
comme l'a
will
dit
join us later.
très justement ma
As
collègue
my colleague said very aptly,
Alexandra Lyon, la vraie question au début pour une
real
première ville
question,
apprenante, c'est de ne pas rester
the
seul, de
first
ne pas
learning
être
city is
une
not
ville
to
orpheline
stay
sur son territoire. Et
alone and
merci
orphan
Alexandra
on
aussi
their
d'y avoir
territory.
cru
So thank you,
dès le début,
Alexandra,
qui a
from the
beaucoup fait
very
pour qu'Evry
beginning,
Couronne rentre dans ce réseau.
because she's done so
Et
much
puis
to integrate
de
Evry to
fait
this
et en
network,
réalité,
and in fact, in
la seconde
reality,
ville, ce qui fait que
the second,
évidemment nous avons des
that's
liens
the second French
très
learning
proches
city.
les uns
So
des
we
autres.
have
C'est un réseau à taille
fostered
humaine, comme
long-term close
l'a dit
connections. Our network is on a human scale, as
un
Alexandra
réseau
said.
dans lequel nous nous
It's a
contaminons, mais cette
network
fois-ci
where we
positivement,
contaminate each other,
les
but
unes
it's
les autres,
contaminate in the positive sense of
où
the
nos
word.
villes se font en quelque sorte
We affect each
tisserandes
other, and our
de
cities
territoires. Nous
weave
tenons
a
beaucoup à
new
cette idée de
territory
tisser les territoires et de les relier entre eux.
to connect
Or, nous
these
le faisons en
different
pratiquant,
places
en
together.
partageant des
We
pratiques
do this by
inspirantes, c'est-à-dire en
sharing
échangeant
inspiring
des
practice, by
stratégies
exchanging
efficaces
strategies which
et
are
des
efficient
solutions innovantes
and
pour
innovative
renforcer
solutions to
l'éducation de tous nos
reinforce the
citoyens
education of all our
tout au long de la
citizens,
vie, pour nourrir aussi un idéal
also
démocratique en
life, and
soutenant
also to nourish a democratic
l'empowerment
ideal
des
to
populations les
support
plus
the
vulnérables,
empowerment of the most
notamment dans
vulnerable
le cadre
populations,
de notre
especially
urgente
within the
adaptation au
frame
changement
of
climatique.
adaptation to
Ici en
climate
France, toutes nos
change.
villes
Here in
apprenantes se
France,
sont mises
all our learning
progressivement
cities
à
have
hauteur d'enfant.
progressively
Alexandra le disait il y a un
adapted
instant.
to a child's
Notre
height.
réseau
And
est
child's way
aussi
of
une
saying things,
photographie
our
souvent
network is
enthousiaste,
also a snapshot,
positive,
optimistic
optimiste
and
de nos
positive, and
stratégies de
optimistic
transition,
around strategies for transition,
respectueuses aussi de nos
which are
spécificités
also
locales ou
respectful of our
régionales.
local specificity
Alexandra l'a dit, nous
and
sommes un jeune réseau,
regional
né il y a à peine
peculiarities.
plus d'un
We
an
are
sur ce
also a young
web.
network, as
Pour
Alexandra
autant,
said.
l'enjeu de nos prochaines
But,
rencontres nationales à
um,
Lille
we are
sera
going to meet
d'établir
up
entre
soon
nous des
in Lille,
procédures
and we have a lot
d'innovation
to say.
collaborative
Procedures of collaborative
susceptibles de nous
innovation
permettre de
likely
développer, de
to allow
tester
us to
ensemble
develop
des
and remain
programmes
together, to
spécifiques
develop
au
together
service des
programs which
objectifs de
are
développement
specific,
durable. La mise en
specific
réseau
to
structuré dans nos
sustainable
villes
growth.
renforce
The
nos
structured network of our
opportunités, et ça
cities
c'est
reinforces our
certain, en
opportunities.
matière
It's
d'échange
definite
d'expertise,
when it comes to
notamment au
exchanging
sein de l'UNESCO en
expertise,
matière de
especially
recherche, de
within UNESCO when
formation
it comes
et
to
de bonnes
research,
pratiques.
training, and best
La
practice.
deuxième chose, c'est que cela nous permet aussi d'établir les
Thing is that it
conditions
also allows
d'un
us to
plaidoyer
establish
commun, common plea, en
conditions for
faveur
common
des politiques
advocacy
éducatives au
in
service de la
favor of,
transmission des savoirs à tous et à
but it
toutes,
aimed at politicians when it comes
convenant,
to furthering
considérant
knowledge,
comme
and
fondement
we
même d'un nouveau
consider this
contrat
to be the very
social pour le
foundation of a
XXIe
new
siècle.
social contract for the
Toutes
21st
nos villes se
century.
sont engagées
All
à
our
faire vivre les
cities
valeurs
have
de
committed
l'UNESCO au sein des
to
cités éducatives, notamment,
upholding
que
the
nous
values of
co-construisons
UNESCO, notably when it comes to
avec la
education,
société
that we
civile sur les
co-build
territoires les
with
plus
civil
défavorisés
society
de notre
on the
ville.
most vulnerable
Progressivement,
neighborhoods
nous
of the
gagnons
towns we live
collectivement en
in, and
visibilité internationale
progressively
et merci
we
Edith
gain
aussi
international
et à
visibility. So
toute
thank you
l'équipe de
very much,
l'UIL
Edith, and
de
the
nous
whole of the
apporter cette aide
UIL
formidable.
have brought us this
Une
wonderful
visibilité
opportunity
internationale dont nous avons besoin pour
and
nos programmes, mais
international
surtout pour les
visibility that we
perfectionner,
need,
pour apprendre des autres.
especially
Un
to
réseau
perfect
national,
our
bien
actions
sûr,
and learn
est
from the
nôtre.
others. National network
Il
is important
facilite la
too, of
création
course,
de partenariats avec
and
d'autres organisations
facilitates the
internationales,
creation
des
of
ONG,
partnerships with
des acteurs
other
privés,
international organizations,
favorisant ainsi des projets
NGOs, private
collaboratifs
sector,
que nous
which is
n'aurions pas
then
pu
conducive
imaginer
to
même auparavant.
collaborative projects we couldn't
Il
even
nous
have
permet
imagined
aussi de peser sur les
beforehand.
décisions,
And it
comme nous
allows
l'avons
us to
fait encore
weigh
récemment
decisions as
à
we did
l'occasion de la
recently
préparation de la conférence
when
internationale
it
de
came to
Tachkent,
preparing the
qui était
international
dédiée à la
conference
petite
of
enfance
Tashkent,
et que nous avons préparée
dedicated
sous l'égide
to
de notre Commission
young
nationale française de
children,
l'UNESCO, que nous
prepared
devons aussi
under the
remercier.
aegis of
Donc ce
our
structuré en
collaboration
réseau
with UNESCO. We'd
national
like to
est
thank
demain,
as well.
comme
So
nous
to structure
l'espérons,
a national network
au sein de la
is
grande
something we
région Amérique du
develop
Nord-Europe,
tomorrow within
eh bien,
the larger region of
ce
Excuse
North
me,
America and
Philippe.
Europe.
I will conclude.
Thank you.
Offrira des opportunités multiples,
We hope this
sans
will
cesse
offer multiple
renouvelées, de
opportunities,
sensibilisation et de capacitation de nos
conscience
communautés à la citoyenneté
raising
universelle.
and
En somme, juste deux
community
mots,
building
la
faced with
création du réseau français des villes
universal
apprenantes UNESCO au
challenges.
sein de
Just
la
to finish,
Commission nationale
our
française de
French
l'UNESCO
network of learning
nous offre des
city
opportunités uniques
offers
qui allient à la fois la
unique
libre administration de
opportunities
nos communes,
combining
nous
the
sommes
free
libres, mais aussi
administration
action
of our
collective
pounds if we do this. Also, action, common advocacy, international collaboration too. So thank you for UIL. You've been our side from the very beginning. Thank you, and sorry for going over time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Philippe, also for that super insightful presentation of how the French learning cities have created a collaborative structure and work together. So we will now move on to what we called in the agenda the missing link, creating a structure at the regional level. And we have invited and are very grateful to have with us today Mr. Luis González Arenal. He's the Secretary of the Regional Latin American Network of Learning Cities. And he will share with us some insights on how the learning cities in the region are working together. Luis, also you have 5 minutes. As we are quite over time already, I would kindly ask you to stick to the time so that we can also have some time for discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, don't worry about the time. This will be very, very fast. And we have this network that has been growing a lot. We have more than 50 cities now in Latin America. I'm going to present a little bit what's going on the network. And we have a small timeline where everything happened, how this happened. And in 2015, we have the second UNESCO Learning Cities Conference in Mexico City. It was the first Mexican city to be in the network. Then in Villa Maria, there was the establishment of the Mercosur network. In 2019, we funded the Mexican Learning Cities Forum. Right after this forum, we did like the first meeting of the Mexican Learning Cities Network. And then we had in Medellin, did a lot of networking there that resulted in the regional integration of Medellin, Arequipa, Mexico, Villa Maria, and Bogota. And we talked for the first time about the Latin American network. And we did more than a year ago, at the beginning of last year, the first Latin American Learning Cities Forum, where all these mayors signed an agreement. And in 2014, just about a month and a half ago, we did the second one in Bogota. This is more or less the structure we have. It's a non-profit NGO, and we have a general assembly. The executive secretariat, we do all this coordination of all the cities. We push them all the time. We also push them to be innovative. We have a special situation in Latin America, in most of Latin America, which is that it's national. Education is mostly national. So sometimes, well, most of the times mayors think they don't have anything to do with anything that has to do with education. So we are proving them wrong, thanks to UNESCO and all the work you do. And this is working very, very fine. We have 4 clusters that are very, very active, and we have the cities that are heading them. We promote, as all the network, all these exchange programs, activities. We really take advantage of the power of the network. We are seeking to attract resources. We already do, and we encourage new cities to adopt the UNESCO leader. We have a very close eye on them, so they do whatever it takes to follow the UNESCO Learning City model. And also, we disseminate and we promote lifelong learning in all the cities. So we already have a website, we have social networks, we have branding and position of the network. So we know how important that is. So we are very active on that too. We are, for example, thanks to the network, we have already 2 applications in progress for funds that are very interesting because there have to be 3 learning cities involved in the program from different countries. You already have that. We have technical bits of a change. For example, tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, Adriana and I will be going to Querétaro and San Luis Potosí because we always have to fight the intermittence of the change of administrations. And for example, just about few days ago, we had a change of hundreds and hundreds of mayors in Mexico. So tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, we'll go to Querétaro and San Luis to meet them, so they will follow what they are doing. We are also promoting and we are helping from Argentina, the Network for Learning Cities, all the structure and everything. Also, the same thing is happening with us in Colombia and also in Ecuador, because we believe that local networks will have a better understanding of the local networks and will have a higher impact on their countries. And I think I don't have too much more time anymore, but what we have done is we have a repository of good practices. We are incorporating new cities in this work. We are exchanging a lot of knowledge, and we are developing new programs and pushing them for innovation. We believe that non-formal learning is our secret weapon because it promotes real and genuine collaboration with the community. We don't have too much contact with what's happening inside the schools because that's very institutional, but I think lifelong learning and this Learning City program can help a lot on what's not going well in there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Luis. This is very impressive, and I think adds this important another layer of coordinating the work of learning cities, in addition to what we saw at the national level within the national framework. And you have mentioned some of the very concrete initiatives, like having a joint website or branding, but also I think it's really interesting that you foster bonds with other regional networks. So I think this is really a very good structure at multiple levels with several national networks that exist, and then having this umbrella organization. Also very nice to see that you work on thematic issues, and we will move to thematic issues as ESD, citizenship education, health and well-being in the next part of this meeting. Before that, I would just like to briefly, maybe we can take 5 minutes for some questions, 1 or 2 questions that relate directly to the presentations before we move on to the more thematically oriented discussions in the breakout rooms. If you have a question, please just raise your hand and then you can unmute yourself. Hi, Balázs. Please go ahead. You're still muted.
Yeah, just can you hear me?
Very well.
Yeah, just one note, and good afternoon, good day to everyone in this session for today. Sorry for being late. I'm heading back for Hungary in Brussels, Charleroi Airport, after a long day. The only thing I would like to report to you as Vice President of the European Lifelong Learning Platform is that we are trying to address towards the European Commission with the lobbying force of a number of organizations within education, training and learning to open up when the newly formed commission will be established by the end of the year to set up a European platform for learning cities and to return back support of the European Social Fund to learning cities and regions. You may remember that the financial crisis of 2007-8 provided an excuse for governments to stop financing learning regions, while they called that time the structures in Europe. I think this is also very, very important to address that today we need to promote not only participatory, but also performance-related actions to develop skills in a number of ways. And I do agree with Luis that we need to emphasize non-formal and informal learning activities addressed by learning cities and communities. Edith Hammer and her team has been working for this quite vividly and openly with a number of governments. But I think at the European level, we also need some concentrated action on this. And we are going to report back to you when there will be a formal proposal to the European Council, the Commission, and the Parliament to find the way how cities across Europe might be developing a European platform to be visible, inclusive, but at the same time strong enough to provide not at all one voice, but a strong voice where people can exchange also together with other regions of the world. Thank you for now. Thank you.
That's perfect. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's quite a critical initiative to be aware of and to discuss within this context. So thanks, Balázs, for sharing this. I think we will come back to you to see how this can be more closely related to the work of the UNESCO GNLC, this initiative. Thank you so much. I think with that, I mean, if more questions come up, you can also post them in the chat, or you may have a chance in the breakout sessions to post them to the different facilitators. We would now like to move to thematic discussions, also to see not only in terms of how can cities collaborate within a region in terms of the coordination mechanisms, the communication, peer learning methodologies, but also in terms of what are the key issues that that we can see in the European cities, what are the key issues that would really need to be addressed at the European level in order to make advancements. And welcome back, everyone, to the plenary. We would like now we can take around 15 minutes to share what was discussed within the 4 thematic strands that we had opened. In the 2 strands that I shared, I think we didn't always stay very close within the boundaries of the dedicated subject, but I think that doesn't matter. I think it's more important to share those issues that are of most relevance. And I would now start with the topic of education for sustainable development and climate education, and ask Jürgen to take maybe around 3 minutes to wrap or to sum up some key discussion points briefly. Thank you.
Thank you, Edith. Yes, we had 2 rounds with the first were maybe 8 or 9 people, and the second we were 4. So it was a very interesting, but very we had not time enough to discuss it and become acquainted. So next time we have to take more time to warm up a little bit and to write behind the name also the city. So because the introduction round takes too much time and we didn't know each other very much. But it was very interesting what the people discussed. And I could give maybe 5 points that I would like to point out. The first, many like the practical exchange between cities in all fields of education. So how do you do this? How did you do that? Something like that. So that's what everybody was looking for. And then I would say another point is we need more exchange between systematic approach in cities. How is the climate change education established? What kind of departments are working together, and how is it financed? Something like that. And the collaboration in the city is often very good, but there's also much collaboration between the learning city itself and another international or other international learning cities. So there's much international contact on the floor. I was really surprised. And I heard also that there has been since 2018 an international collaboration, or let's say ENA network between North America and Europe in learning cities, but it was not officially because there was no UNESCO commission in the United States. So there is a lot of international work there. And the last, I would say, some expressed the need to look for more money for educational projects. That is might be also a very interesting issue, because the city has not only the educational side, but also the commercial side, and how to bring these together and to spend some money, especially in countries where the education is not that well equipped. Yeah, maybe that's the point. But in general, education for sustainable development was a big issue, especially the climate issue, to show the climate issue maybe as the role model for ESD. And we also discussed there should be an indicator of what quality the ESD is there in the cities. And so it was really interesting discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, and thanks for sharing those main points with us. Maybe the facilitators of the other sessions could recognize some themes that came across also in the other breakout sessions. I would then like to invite Philippe to give a brief summary of the two breakout rounds on health and well-being, and what were the main discussion points in your session.
Thanks, Edith. Sorry for my bad English, because it was not really, I don't have access to the translation. So I will try in 2 minutes to say what was the great spirit and very interesting one, the great spirit of our session. What's is important, in fact, for everybody is first and foremost maybe a special awareness that we are living in a terrible world, in fact, a world in turmoil, where our cities are confronted here with the explosion of the misery, otherwhere with war, directly or indirectly, through the reception of the welcoming we need to improve for refugees, pandemics, and a number of dramatic events directly connected to climate change. So the question of health and well-being for all citizens not only must be proclaimed, or must be we need to flourishing, but we represent as representatives of our cities, we must therefore not only face up to these challenges, but also build powerful tools showing not only to fight, to combat the effects of these dramatic situations as I described just a few seconds ago, but with the support of scientific and academic research, with the universities, to build powerful tools to transform our practices in a very democratic and more democratic behaviors. We need to proclaiming common and achievable goals and objectives, and maybe founded an ethic of caring. And we need to proclaim it and to experience and to share all our experience we are doing in this way. Sorry, I tried to. I'm not sure I understood perfectly what it was said by everybody in this session, but it was what I understood clearly with our fellow colleagues from Ukraine, Glasgow, and thanks to them.
Thank you so much.
I hope that I didn't betray them.
I see that George raised his hand.
Yes.
I can give you just one minute maybe before we move on to the reporting, but please.
Yeah, maybe less. What I noticed at this webinar is the position of networks, that it was maybe more strong than other times. That impressed me. Full stop. Thank you.
Thank you for making that point. I think that many will agree. Well, let's hear what the main discussion points were in the breakout session on global citizenship education, peace education, and media literacy. Alexandra, please, would you share some main insights or discussion strands that you had in your session?
Oui, alors moi aussi de façon très brève et j'espère être
I will try to speak very briefly, and I hope that this is a reflection of what was said. So the key questions identified by participants at Learning City, we talked about religion, and it's true that in France we have a specific conception of religious issues that was mentioned, and more globally, how learning cities can foster inhabitants to fight against discrimination, notably connected to racism, gender, sexual orientation, and religious beliefs. And when it comes down to it, in several cities, we have witnessed the increase of populist movements, and we also talked about the participation of children and the way children have a place within the city and within the construction of our cities, underlining that taking into account the special needs of children, and these needs are often common to other sections of the population, such as older people, handicapped people, and we also talked about citizen participation and the ways in which cities can draw up charters with inhabitants, define the applications, define concrete applications, and also when it comes to the town policy and future projects. We also talked about education all throughout life, especially for adults, and that no category of the population should be left behind, even if they're quite far removed from learning institutions. There was also the question of access to educational programs, providing free education, the diversity of formats, different formulas, formal, informal sectors of diversity of knowledge transmission, and we also talked about recognition.
Du souhait de chercher des certificats, diplômants, la façon dont on
reconnaît about wanting to access diplomas, certifications, so that what is learned can actually be utilized afterwards. For example, access to employment, but also more globally, where citizenship is considered in society. The second question, connected to what some of my colleagues were saying, what Georges said, and which came back several times, the question of working within a network and the involvement of different actors, whatever their place in the scale of the city. Setting up regional international networks is vital. These links already exist, and we've seen that talking face-to-face with people from specific cities is important. You have to utilize these exchanges, share them, support them. And good news is I think that the reason for existing for our meeting today tends towards this objective. And so there are challenges, but also solutions that we can imagine together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alexandra, for sharing. And I would quite straightforward then invite Yvonne to report on the discussion points of the last breakout session, which discussed skills for the future, employment, innovation, and entrepreneurship, maybe among other things. So
indeed, yeah. Similar to the other groups and some of the themes coming up. Please. Lovely, no problem. I'll keep it brief. And some of the themes were parallel in our own session. We had, I think, 6 or was it 7 people in the first one and 3 in the next session. Very rich discussion. And just to mention that we felt that entrepreneurship skills and the future and work, it was not just around kind of business and links with business, but it was about that mindset of creativity, innovation, risk-taking, and promoting and cultivating that. Some issues for ourselves as learning cities and as networks, putting traineeships on a par, apprenticeships with university traditional education and promoting that, which I suppose we're doing within the further education and training sector, etc., within Ireland ourselves. Another theme that came out was that fostering innovation, creativity, entrepreneurship for people that are maybe in secure, well-paid employment in the FDI, and that risk-taking to go out and to set up a business. And how do we, I suppose, promote that when there's maybe perhaps full employment, etc., and they're nice and secure. The need for transferable skills, because the world of work and lifelong learning is changing, badges, documenting and accrediting that. But allied to the themes coming out this afternoon, the power of the network in affecting change. And what we said in kind of tackling that in our best practice example is that we're starting the conversation at city network level with each other in tackling issues. I suppose university education as markers of indicators, the quality of employment as well as the number of people graduating, qualitative indicators. The learning mobile example and the talent factory, I suppose you know more than you think in 2 municipalities, including San Pedro in Mexico. Another lovely example, This City Works, St Andrews Resource Centre, Dublin Learning City, collaboration community state, private sector such as Google, etc., in innovative pathways. So there are ways that we can share best practice examples in this area. And I think I captured some of the conversations. Thank you.
Thank you. That was very rich. I guess you found a very good approach for the skills topic. Also, as you started to mention, this mindset of creativity, which gives a different dimension to pure technical skills. So thanks very much. Appreciated. So now I think the question left is how do we continue with that conversation that we started today, and what can happen with it? We will prepare a brief report with the main outcomes of the discussions today, and share this with you. And beyond that, of course, we will continue the discussions at the international conference. And I would now like to invite Raoul to share with us how we will translate the discussions that we started today to the ICLC and possibly beyond, and to also then close the meeting. Raoul, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Edith. I really enjoyed the dialogue. It was quite rich, and I think it's a good starting for a continuous process that we should really reinforce. I could hear clearly the importance of exchanging good practices, the importance of adjusting, adapting based on the differences on each of the city, but really to learn from each other. And they are quite rich experiences. There is a lot of commitment. I could see also the big articulation of the work that the cities are having within the city, with other partners, with other networks, which I think is very fruitful, and we need to really strengthen that kind of cooperation inside the city. But also I was able to hear from different cities the possibility for them to organize national networks of learning cities. I think this is very important. It's really responding to the needs of the different cities, and also putting together the similar challenges. And sometimes the challenges are quite different, but the language it's an important topic, or the national context is also an important reality. Just to let you know that we are going to start next week a capacity building workshop with Ukrainian cities, and we are very excited about it. Because we are going to learn together also with them. And I think this can be replicated in all the countries. And also the last part is that I heard the importance of working more with other countries, sub-regional networks or regional networks. I think this is more and more the strategy to follow, and I think it's really responding to the demands of the different cities, and will bring more chances for exchange, for continue adjusting, and why not also finding some financial support, because that also came very strong as a unit that we could make really cases, because at the city level, it's not that difficult to show the impact. Sometimes at national level is not clearly because of the difficulty of implementing policies, but at the local level, we could see some important chances to report on cases of a big change in the life of the citizens. So, well, I think it was quite excited. I really would like to continue this dialogue with discussions. I would suggest to continue this dialogue in the International Conference on Learning Cities, the one that will take place in December. We would like to discuss with you in there, also bringing mayors in order to commit themselves, because also that's important. I had the chance to hear also when the mayor is changing, sometimes is not contributing to reinforce the work of cities, or stop the big advance that cities are having already. So we need to work together on this, and to have the different voices that could convince the mayor the importance of being part of this initiative. So we really would like to have you in Saudi Arabia, in Jubail, in the conference, and we have a special slot for that we can discuss with the different regions, how they can commit themselves in order to continue this dialogue, with this exchange of good practices, this collaboration, and we can find a way to structure a cooperation among the region. I mean, it's very important. Europe, as I said, is the region that has most cities in the network, with more countries. It's quite advanced in the concept of lifelong learning. So I think in a way, it's a good approach to reinforce the work within the cities in Europe, but also to be a good provider of experiences from other regions in the world. So I really want to thank you very much, all of you, for your kind way of sharing things. I think it was quite important, quite touching in many ways, and we could see how cooperation is taking place, sometimes very in a non-formal way, but would be nice to establish this more in a formal structure. I think it will be very beneficial to all of us. I want to thank you, the cities that started this process, very much appreciated, to Cork, to Limerick, to Clermont-Ferrand, to also Hamburg, and of course also Évry-Courcouronnes, and all of you. I mean, really, all of you representing the different cities. It really was very nice, and willing very much to see you in Jubail, Republic of Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, sorry, from the 3rd to 5th of December. You're very welcome. Thanks a lot, and wish you a very nice evening.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye.
Raoul. Thanks, Edith.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all so much.
Bye.
That was
Thank
great.
you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.